That should be a solid line with the ground line underneath it. Notice it's on an angle and it looks like a basket weaving hatch. It's the proper hatch. 1-to-1 triangle, a little bit small text. Notice the size text has gone bigger for the notes. Well, it should be that size text. They've done their homework for the text and got their text perfect. So there are some good and not so good. That doesn't match the hatch over here. So that's the right one. It should have been reflected on the legend. You will need to put a legend in between. So probably immediately you can see we've got an issue. You're going to need to go to a second sheet and maybe a third. Each sheet should have a legend on it and some notes. At this level, which is stage 6, last year degree, you should be able to come up with a bit more than just 4 notes. Okay? The dash line should be a solid line with the hatch dashed across here. In this case, nearly all of it is cut, and I don't see the word, oh, there is cut here. So they have used the word cut in a few places. You'll know from your CAD standards on your very first CAD class, which is level 1, that is not acceptable in anything to do with the engineering. You can move the text up, and that starter should be beside the N. It should be beside the N, and that one there should also be beside the N. So the golden rule is if you're pointing down to the left, it starts at the bottom left. If you're pointing up, it starts at the top row on the left. Right is the same, up, right, down, bottom right. The changes are reflected on the drawing sheet if you're looking for something to put on your drawing sheet, and it should be sheet 1 of whatever it is. Your first sheet is going to be your site plan. The second lot of sheets will be your cross sections of whatever order I've asked them for, and the last sheet will be your long section. I'm pretty sure that's the way I've asked. Yeah, so there's something to think about, to ponder about. They could have also included the height of the trees. There's nothing there on the heights, so it's often on a cross section you need to make a reference to what the heights are of the trees. So you can take these drawings as far as you want. If you're looking for an A mark, then you'll be spending a lot more time doing the CAD side of the drawings. In reality, they do most of the work in AutoCAD and Offices, and the design work is done on Civil 3D. Don't like the hatch the students used on the right hand side. That is a standard geotechnical, the dots means sand. There's a bit of messiness going on here on the left. It's just that I think the student handed in really quickly and they didn't get time to check those sort of things. It could have easily have been sorted out with a wee bit more time. This is a pipe going under the road. If the cross section is before the pipe, it's dashed. If it's on the pipe, it's solid. If the pipe's behind you, you don't show it. Most of you are sort of nodding because you remember that from the design and drawing class. Similar mistakes. The wetlands is normally, you can do it with the grass symbol in it as well, or just dash like that, like a water symbol. That's fine. Once again, the little triangle with the little text, don't do that. That should be the normal text height that you calculate. We'll go into that.
Is that font okay?
The font's a bit clownish. I think you'd probably use something a little bit more boring.
You use the Arial?
Yeah, Arial's probably one of the best ones to use. or the standard text that AutoCAD comes up with. Okay,
Ingrid doesn't
so
like that one.
what's that?
Ingrid doesn't like the spidery text.
Well, even more so then. As long as you don't tell it, that's fine by me. This student has done an existing site plan that looks pretty good, except for they didn't change the symbols on some of the trees. They kept them the same, and it kind of made me think that all the trees were the same diameter and same height. They have put a start point in. Interesting, the terminology, which you didn't get to use and you would not have seen before. The word is tie-in. There's always on every road a tie-in point from the start to the finish. When you think about it, it's quite logical. Normally with roads, you don't start at the bottom of the South Island and end up the top of the north. You start somewhere along State Highway 1 if it's a State Highway 1 job. So you're going to tie in, and you don't want that much of a gap for the to tie into the next bit of road. And you don't want it to miss either, because you tend to run off the road if it misses. So the tie-in point is very critical, because they mark that from day one, and that's what they match into, all right? Therefore mark it. Sometimes it's determined by P1 or P2, but normally it's marked. For those that haven't done any CAD with me, don't use lowercase text. An existing site plan will have a locality plan on it. You'll note up here, a locality plan gives you a bit of an idea of where the site is. You don't know where the site is, so I'm happy for you to estimate where it is in Unitec and just kind of plonk an X there. It's not a real job, so the thing I want to see though is the Waterview exchange area, North Point, and underneath the locality plan a scale bar. So I've got a bit of an idea of distance. Some more notes there you might look about copying for your drawing, and there's survey coordinate points for the start and finish of the road. Long section. This is a pretty basic one. The student has also found some crossover pipes, and they've indicated there on their notes that this could be an issue. The road may have to be relocated because it's way too close to the pipe down the bottom. The other thing about this one is it ties into a river bridge. So the bridge height and the bridge levels are important for this. Once again, they're using the terminology to tie in. This is actually a path as opposed to a road, but what is interesting is nowhere is the width of the road or the width of the path called up. I don't like the variation in text here. The HAD fill cut formation level is too big, and the text on the right, all the little numbers, are obviously too small. So try and get all them about the same. They should measure 3.5 in layout space. I'll show you the maths for that shortly. There are other long section examples. Here's a better one. This shows the curve. You'll notice down the bottom, now this is interesting, you'll be given this information from Civil 3D. You'll need to replicate that somewhere on your long section. Normally it's in the bottom section. Notice the pipe is there as well. I'm not sure if you've got a pipe, but if you have, you'll have to put that on your drawing with its grade. You don't have a manhole by memory, so you're okay. Still, this is a very good example. I can't pull it apart too much, except that the ground line hatch looks like bricks on an angle. That is the hatch for a park, not for a ground line. So if the road crosses a path, notice you have to bring the path up in terms of your notes. And another thing I like, this student, this is really good. This student has put C note 8 and C note 3 over here. They've referenced their notes back to the main set of notes here. So you can see that Civil 3D is going to do a lot of the maths for you, a lot of the numbers. It's going to churn out some reasonable drawings, but you've got to bring it to the next level in AutoCAD to make these drawings professional. Now you're lucky you don't have to do a proposed road design this year. You're probably going back to the, you'll notice the proposed road design has got chainages on it. But the existing site plan didn't. So I've been very kind to you this year. I can promise you if you end up coming back next year, there will be a proposed road design. You can do that because those contours did come out of Civil 3D. Remember they fanned in like that? Yeah. So you'll be quite pleased about that. I thought most of you are smiling at not having to do that. That had quite a bit more extra work on it. I'll just go to the assignment and we'll have another quick look at what you do need to do. You've got to provide a site plan, an existing site plan. So we saw that first up. It didn't have that much detail on it. It had contours on it, and it also had a centre line of the alignment. You may have to change the centre line in AutoCAD because it might not come out too good. You need to provide the cross sections and a long section. So you are getting out of the hardest one of the lot, which I just had up on the screen, which was the proposed road. But you do have all the tools in the toolbox to do it if you're ever required to do it and work. The guy that had 6 years experience, he wanted me to change the assignment, so I did proposed roads, but the rest of the class kind of voted him out, which was good. So here's an example of a proposed road. Just keep that in your toolbox as, for example only. You notice that there's quite a bit more to it. You've got your butterfly wings. Notice the butterfly wings are not the same. They're nowhere near the same as you had to do in design and drawing. So they're more long and thin and they fan out on a road design, especially a road with an angle on it. A couple of other examples of the roads. I won't go into those in detail. Very similar. So let's recap. The cross sections, there's going to be, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15 of those. So there's going to be quite a few cross sections. That's where the bulk of your marks are. So if you want to put time into it, put time into getting those trees right, notes and everything like that. You will need to do a long section. I think that'll be the easiest because most of the data will be done for you. You'll just have to put a few trees up the top and maybe add some notes, etc. The existing site plan also should be relatively easy because it's going to be there for you to bring into a title block, and you will need to add some labels and a centre line, etc. Let's have a look at this week's notes. I think that's important. That's the next stage. So there's no official learning. After I finish this, that's it with me talking. So it'll be 3 weeks of doing your assignment. Okay. I will be here with James, and if James can't answer anything, then I'll be able to assist as well. Okay. Within reason. I may just direct you to the notes. All right. Some of this will be very familiar, and you're welcome to switch off. Just be quiet so that anyone that hasn't done design and drawing at Unitec gets a bit of an opportunity to see what they need to do. It's also a bit of reflection for yourselves because, you know, it's been a wee while and it'll give you a wee bit of revision. Okay, so if there is any bush, and by memory there is bush, then that's a symbol I would like you to use, a cloud symbol with nothing else inside it. So if I give you some points that I'm calling a bush, okay, so say I give you some points where there's some bush, then I expect you to do a cloud in that region and to call it up as whatever it is, native bush, whatever.
Not possible in 1A, this one is 7 and 3.
Also, if there's any rules in the local council, or if there's any rules for native bush, you can refer to a note saying perhaps an environmental engineer to check if it's okay to go close to the bush, or if your road comes through here and you didn't know it when you first put it in, then you're going to have to check to see if that's okay to do that, or if you need to change your road design like that. At the moment, I'm not going to penalise anyone that has roads going through the bush or over a pond or whatever. But when it comes to the CAD side of things, you're going to have to go back in and change the road, because I won't accept the road going through ponds or bush on the CAD side. So the best idea is to look at the PDF that I've given you and the points that it gives you: trees, paths, and all sorts of things. A road can go through the path. You can have a road going through a path. It's just that the path will have to stop there, and you've all gone on walks before where you've had to stop, walk across the road to the other side of the path. That's what happens with the path. So don't worry, it can go through a path, but the bush, definitely the pond or wetlands, no. And there'll be trees you'll have to avoid too. So if you want to be clever about it, put those points that I've given you, find those points in Civil 3D, and just make sure that you're clear of those points with your road design. So if you've already advanced it, now is the time to bring that PDF in. What PDF you say? Well, I'm glad you asked me that. The assignment PDF is here.
Because they're awesome in one. Do we have to change the text height
Yep.
as like we will be doing 1 to 500, right?
Yes, well, not with everything. You need to, I think the sections are a different scale. Cross sections are a different scale. I think the long section's the same scale. You'll have to read. Sorry, I've opened the wrong file here. So, this file is in assignment 1. You've got a centre of a shed on point 1238. So you're going to have to draw that on an AutoCAD. But be aware that it's 2 metres by 2. So if you did a circle 1 metre diameter, then that'll make sure your road misses that. You should miss the shed as well. Unless it's in the road, in which case you may have to look at trying to get rid of it. Exotic cherry tree. I'm afraid cherry trees that are registered as exotic in Auckland cannot be touched. So that's one you can't get chopped down. Native trees, 2 metres wide, 3 metres high. You can apply for resource consent to chop that down. It's not 6 metres. Edge of wetlands. There we are. There's some points. Another edge of wetlands going on. Edge of creek. Centre of trees. Centre of trees. And centre of the path. So the trees, if it's 4 metres wide, 5 metres high, that's what all those trees are. Now some of them won't affect you, but you will have to call them up on the existing site plan. Little arrow, little label, 4 metres high, existing tree. Alright? So, although assignment 1 is really easy and shouldn't take too long, it would definitely pay just to have a look at where those points are, so you don't put your alignment right through the middle of everything. Alright, well look, this is real world learning here. It's happened to me many times. Alright, I think probably one of the worst things to do is to not check if there's any iwi archaeological stuff on site and you plough right through the middle of it with your alignment, because that immediately, problem. New Zealand's not so bad. You wouldn't really want to be doing it in Europe. So many different things have happened over the years. You wouldn't know where you're going, what archaeological site you're going through. I had a boss once who specialised in laying gas mains, and he said he was working in England once, and they were going through a site where some king supposedly lost hold of the gold way back in the old days, and so they had to hand dig it. And the only people that were hand diggers were the Irish, the paddies. The paddies turned up with their shovels, and they paid them per foot digging the trench. And somebody accidentally said, "Oh, I hope we find the gold," and the paddies were like this, and they realised it was an archaeological site, and they knew they'd still get paid if they found something. So within minutes, one of them had dropped the gold coin and said, "Look what I've found!" Right? Everything stopped. They had to wait for the main dude to come from London to come out and inspect it all. Turned out to be a 1990 gold coin. And they got paid for 2 or 3 days' work, which they didn't do. So everyone says Paddy's a little bit dumb, but no. So anyway, yeah, check these and then you won't have any problem. Sorry about the stories, got to give a couple of work stories, or else it makes it a bit boring. Let's go back to the
What's the height?
Okay, so we have the bush. The shed, I would say the existing shed, you're going to have to put a label like that on it, and don't use that hatch on anything else, or else it looks really weird if you've used it for a shed and then you go and use it for underneath the road or something. I don't think there's any fences, but you will have a swamp, so you can use your wetlands hatch, which is the dash one, and some grass on top. Trees are up to you. You can put your own symbols for the trees on there, but make sure the circle is right over the top of the trees that are the right size that I call up. Remember before? 2 metre wide, whatever the diameter is of the trees. Yeah. Make sure you put a north point on the plan. Very important. Everyone wants to know where north is, and also put a north point on your existing site plan, locality plan. Now we're getting to the point of where the students are asking some
I
questions.
did a lot of work.
No. No, everyone, just to be clear, you don't need to put the trees for part A or part B of the assignment. But I would have a look and see where those points are. Do your alignments, and then have a look at each one of those points. Alt, move it away, move it to the side if you're clashing with the tree. I'm just saying that because otherwise you go all the way through the AutoCAD drawings and put the trees on, and if it's the exotic tree, that can't be moved. No. Yes, the limits are quite tight, and you've got to do the right kilometres per hour speed limit. So it's I'm making you work. Yeah. Oh, don't do that. I'm making you work hard. If the shed needs to be removed, dash. Right?
So it has to be timed.
Centre lines, you already know centre line. You won't need a break line. What you will need is these text types.
1.5.
Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. It's really not that difficult to work out a text type. So if the drawing is 1 to 200, and I've asked for a layout text height of 3.5, most of your text will be 3.5, then it's 3.5 times 200, which equals
7.
carry on.
70.
7.0, yeah. It's actually 7,000, right?
700.
700, sorry. Yeah. And so that's meters. So that equals 0.7. Sorry, that's millimeters. Meters. And that's your model space. 200 is, sorry, 3.5 is what's asked for in layout. So in AutoCAD, if it's 3.5 millimeters and that's required in your layout space, to work out what to make it in model space is 0.7. There's another one here, 1 to 50. 5 millimeter text, 5 times 5, 250 equals 0.25 in model space. All right? The arrow, so your most common one is going to be this one here. That's what I want to see all of the text match up to, except spot heights and contour labels. So you'll have to work that backwards for assignment 1, or adjust them before you take them through. You can if you'll need to do that maths first up. Okay? So contour labels and spot heights, text, other text. That is for titles later on in the drawing, like the word chainage, the word notes, the word locality plan, the bigger title.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But the text is nearly all of the text, and the arrow size is that. So you do the math to find out what it will be. There are different drawing scales for this assignment.
2.5.
Topographical features, that's the sort of thing that I want to see in your plan. You've got some examples. I've pointed out some of the oddities and things that aren't quite right. But I've also pointed out the good things. There's enough of what I've done for you to pass the course, but I'm expecting a little bit of extra research and a little bit of extra work to go in to get the top mark. There's notes there on the topographical features and the existing site plan. I suggest that you read those before you start your CAD drawings.
It says 1 to 500 on the assignment.
There's an example, the locality plan also gives a pretty good idea of what's required. You won't need a survey coordinate table. You could put the start point, the tie-in, and the two tie-in points if you wanted to. What normally happens with a roading job is they also put the tangent points for the curves as well on the survey table. But it's up to you. You don't have to do that.
Oh, that one I know.
Where are the drums?
Press your center line. Press your center line. Go to right hand.
Just for the text, not for the spotlight, and not for the contour label.
Apply. Okay, it will never come back. It come back again.
Sorry, you got, what was it, 1, 2?
Say my text that's alright now.
1.5,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be 1.7.
I can't, it's an assignment, I can't tell you yes or no. But if you've done the maths correctly, that's what it should be. Remember 1 to 500 isn't bigger, it's smaller.
Maxes on over there.
1 to 1,000 is even smaller. 1 to 2,000.
That's Hugo size.
1 to 200,000 is very tiny. You're getting your scales mixed up with size.
Whenever it goes down, everything.
No, when 1 to 100 is bigger, 1 to 50 is bigger, 1 to 20 is bigger, 1 to 1 is even bigger. 1 to 500 is very small.
No, standard.
So you need bigger text.
But then you change this one as well, right?
And that's in meters and model space. Model space is always in meters.
I'll bring my one up. So A is at all.
And notes are 3.5. Spot height, 2.5. In layout, not in what you've got to do the maths every time.
Yeah.
The free text types 4, I've gone over that already. 2.5, 3.5 and 5. The three textiles. If you look at this drawing here, that is 5,
You gotta just like similar kind.
that is 3.5.
You do it.
Next, the arrow's 3.5. I've already said this. And look how small the spotlights are. See? They're 2.5. And the contour labels,
We're supposed to do 1.25 from the start.
they are 2.5 as well.
Just select similar and do it again.
So you have to do the maths to work that out.
First, use the arrow band, come on.
Okay, so there's a checklist here of the existing site plan. And just ask yourself some of these questions that I may or may not need to include in my notes or on the plan. Now, some of these things aren't obviously there. I don't think there's a pipe this year, but you might find there's a boundary line, or you might find there are buildings. So ask yourself what is there and what isn't there, and how am I going to represent it. Long sections. There's a glossary of terms here for long sections. Don't forget to put the grade of the road on there, the formation levels, any invert level of any pipe that goes across the long section or parallel with it. Don't forget to put the soffit level on, which is the top of the pipe. Some more terms: height of datum, top of pipe, distorted scale, just in case you've forgotten what they mean. The grading of the new road. This is just to outline what happens. So a number of factors have to be considered. A new road will have a starting point and a termination point. Using the road will require a note saying to tie in at each existing road. Along the route, the road could have limiting factors such as a pipe crossing, or there could also be local body rules. And I could add to that trees. A geotechnical engineer may also determine limiting factors. For example, there may be places where the batter slopes need to change. You just need to be aware of these things if you need to look up anything extra to go on your road.
So we can make the road. Oh, nice idea. That's why when I cleaned the road, it was made by the pond.
So now it's fixed.
Also, speed values. We talked about that in week 2.
Yeah. See, now we've got.
If you are continuously getting a problem with the speed value that you asked for, you can override it, and I showed you how to do that. However, that is a bit of a cop-out, so you won't get maximum marks, but you will lose a little bit. At least you'll fix up your database.
It's not as close.
Don't forget in roading, the decimal places for the grade of the road are 3 decimal places. And also beside it, you should put a 1 in X value. And there we are, that's how you calculate the 1 in X value and also the grade of the road at various points. Of course, that'll be done for you by Civil 3D, but if you need to check it or change it, there's the calculation involved. And here's an example of grading for anyone that wants to do it manually. There is also a checklist for the road long section. Please work your way through that to see if there's any issues or problems.
Fuck, how do you change this one?
It's more of a general list than anything else. Cross sections, we've already talked about them with the existing site plans. There is some terminology that we use.
This one.
The road pavement goes on after we do the road formation. So just to be clear, you can add notes about the sub-base, the base course, and the surface area. We are doing the road formation. That's when the digger goes through and cuts it all out. Now, I have included a couple of points that may not be correct, so you will need to go through just to make sure that you have, when you're doing your points, you may need to delete a couple. Just go through and have a look to see. Remember what it looked like, a little volcano? If you see any of those, it's the wrong, and it will be obvious. It'll be a peak or a trough where the surveyors put the wrong point in. Yeah.
That doesn't matter. It just has to start and end at a certain so the curves there fine.
The cross section on the road, what I've tried to do here is indicate in plan view what actually happens with super elevation. So when you put a camber on your road of 3%, if you go around the corner, if the corner is too sharp, in order to stop cars from going off the road, they put a camber up, a bit like a racetrack, or in the Olympics when they're doing the biking, the bikes don't go off the track because they have a super elevation. And then when it returns to a straight again, it goes back to 3%, 3%. So you will need to indicate the curves in plan view. I don't know if that comes out of civil CAD or not. I think it did, but if it doesn't, you'll need to indicate where the curves and the straights are in plan view.
You know that thing that we do with the brakes? Do we need that now? Or is it for
Some more terminology for you. Highway, street, median strip, motorway, pavement, shoulder, sub-base, subgrade. The shoulder of the road is the point of the road which is there for to stabilise the rest of the road.
Because I think you put a
The shoulder is the strong part.
It's the length.
It's very important.
So this is a dimension.
In terms of like that takes time.
And the sub-base and subgrade are the different layers
Hitting.
of gravel underneath the road. They're usually highly compacted, and they measure them down to the millimetre on site. These two plats, particularly this one here, if you're going to do a typical cross section, you need to look at this to add some of those things onto the cross section that comes out of civil CAD. So if you're looking for notes, you're looking for things to add, you'll be adding that on a typical cross section. Notice the batter going up and the batter going down, and the dashed line showing the existing ground. And finally, a cross section checklist for what you need to indicate on your section. There is a proposed plan. You're not doing one this time around, so you're okay with that. You don't have to work out the volumes manually, yay, because Civil 3D will do that for you. But just be aware, another reason to shoot me, just be aware that you will need to get that down to 10 cubic metres. square meters. Cubic.
Yeah, but I think it's
So for those that haven't done this before, this is the calculations for working out the volume and the average end area. You don't need to do that for this assignment manually, because Civil 3D will work it out for you if you do it. You read that one. Okay. Lastly, there's some tips here on how to balance your cut and fill. You'll notice that when I was doing it, I lifted the road sometimes, or I played with the curves, and I lowered the roads and played with the curves. That's what you will have to do to get it within 10 cubic meters. So that is a checklist for the proposed road. You're not doing one. You don't need to look at that. But next year it might flip. We might be doing a proposed road, which you'll need those notes next semester. Sorry. I'm sure when it comes to the CAD side of it, there's going to be plenty of questions. Some of it James and I will answer. Some of it you'll have to dig up. Remember, we can't help you get marks just by telling you the answers to everything. I think we can, but we won't.
I think I'm done. Huh? That's Sunday's wise. I'm gonna do that on Friday.